Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack complex ideas, linguistic insights, cognitive science, and really boil it all down into practical, usable knowledge.
And today, our mission tackles what is probably the biggest hurdle for anyone wanting to learn a new language.
Finding the time, right? It's the classic problem.
It really is. You hear it constantly. I'm just too busy. My schedule's packed. There's no way I can fit in serious study. But this deep dive, we're aiming to flip that whole idea on its head.
Okay, intriguing. So it's not about finding huge blocks of time.
Not at all. Forget trying to magically create 2 free hours every night. That's just, well, unrealistic for most people. The solution, we argue, is actually hiding in plain sight. It's scattered all through your day already.
All right, I think I know where you're going with this. We're diving into using those hidden moments, aren't we?
Exactly, those little gaps. And the big claim, the really audacious part, is that you probably spill enough minutes just scattered throughout your day to genuinely acquire a new language within a year.
Okay, that's a bold statement. Enough minutes spilled, like drop change.
Sort of. But
Yeah.
we're not just talking theory here. We want to get into the nitty-gritty, the actual method, how technology and memory science can turn these tiny little slots, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, maybe 15, into real, measurable progress.
So turning wasted seconds into fluency, not just wishful thinking, but a system.
It's about applied efficiency, using proven methods to convert that downtime, that dead air while you're waiting for the kettle or the elevator, into active acquisition time. We'll show you exactly how those microbursts become the foundation.
Let's dig into that idea of spilling time. It's quite a powerful image. I remember reading one expert compare it to Dean Martin talking to a chorus girl.
Oh yeah, I spill more than you drink. That's the one. The idea is we're all constantly letting these little moments, these cognitive seconds, just dribble away. We treat them like they're worthless.
But add them up.
And it's huge. Think about it realistically. 5 seconds waiting for the lift, 20 seconds at the petrol pump, maybe 40 seconds while your computer decides to boot up.
2 minutes waiting for someone who's late for coffee.
Exactly. Or 5 minutes queuing at the post office.
Hmm.
Individually, they seem useless for study, right? You can't exactly crack open a textbook.
No way.
But if you consistently capture, say, just 10 minutes of that kind of scattered time each day,
Yeah.
over a year, that's 60 hours.
60 hours of focused review time that basically didn't exist before. It was just gone.
Gone. Now it's productive. So where do we typically find these moments? Where are the prime opportunities?
You mentioned waiting for things, elevators, queues.
Right. It's those short, often unpredictable intervals. Standing in line, waiting for a traffic light, holding on the phone before they pick up, waiting for the microwave.
The key seems to be that they're not mentally demanding times.
That's crucial. Your brain isn't usually exhausted in those moments. It's just idling, briefly unoccupied.
Yeah.
That's the perfect state for a quick micro lesson.
And the research suggests these little 5, 10, 15-second bursts are actually more valuable than trying to force yourself into a long study session when you're already tired.
Yes, because it fits real life. Look, if your language plan requires you to find an hour of pristine, uninterrupted focus every single day, let's be honest, you're probably going to fail.
Life gets in the way. Always.
Always. A sick kid, work runs late, you're just exhausted. This hidden moments approach, though, it works with the chaos. It takes that scattered, unusable time and turns it into steady, low-friction progress.
Low friction. I like that. It doesn't feel like a huge effort.
Exactly. The cognitive load is tiny. You're not trying to grapple with complex grammar charts in 10 seconds. You're practicing instant recall, reinforcing something you've already processed a bit.
And that feeds into the ultimate goal, right? Which isn't reciting rules, but actually
Yeah.
speaking.
Speaking automatically. Walking up to someone, opening your mouth, and having the right words just come out. Forgetting the rules, in a way.
That intuitive feel.
Precisely. We need to shift focus from the path that feels school-like, the textbook, the drills, to the path that's actually doable day to day. You know, the sources rightly point out, anyone can speak their native language. Any quote-unquote idiot manages it.
Huh. True.
So the language itself isn't usually the insurmountable problem. The challenge is the path. Finding a way to get enough meaningful exposure and practice without completely upending your life.
So leveraging these hidden moments isn't lazy, it's efficient laziness.
Maximum efficiency. Using the best tools to make progress almost without noticing. Turning those tiny scraps of time into fluency bit by bit.
Okay, so the goal is automatic speaking, tapping into the subconscious. This seems to lead us straight into some core linguistic theory, doesn't it? That difference between acquiring a language and learning it.
Absolutely. To really grasp why that 10-second flashcard review while waiting for the microwave is so powerful, you have to understand this distinction, which Stephen Krashen really highlighted. He proposed that we, as adults, develop competence in a second language through two distinct separate ways.
Right. Let's break those down. First up, acquisition.
Acquisition. Think of this as the subconscious route. It's basically how children pick up their first language. You're focused on understanding messages, on the meaning, not really on the grammatical form itself.
So you're just absorbing it.
Pretty much. You're often not even aware you're internalizing rules. You just start to develop this intuitive feel for what sounds right. This is where fluency, that smooth, natural speech, really comes from. Sentences just feel correct, even if you can't explain the grammar rule behind them.
Okay, that makes sense. And the other way, learning.
Learning. This is the conscious process, one we mostly know from school. Memorizing verb tables, drilling grammar rules, consciously studying vocabulary lists. You're learning about the language.
Right, the explicit stuff.
Exactly. And in Krashen's model, this conscious knowledge, the stuff you've learned, primarily functions as a monitor.
A monitor, like an editor, checking our output.
Precisely. It's an internal editor that scans what your subconscious acquired system produces and tries to polish it according to the rules you've consciously learned.
Okay, but if we have this editor, shouldn't we focus on learning more rules? Wouldn't that make us speak more correctly?
It can help with accuracy, but its usefulness is actually pretty limited, especially for the kind of spontaneous, fast-paced conversation most of us are aiming for.
Why limited? What are the catches?
Well, Krashen identified three major conditions that have to be met for you to even use the monitor effectively. And they're tough hurdles in real-time chat.
Okay, lay them out for us. Condition 1.
First, you have to actually know the rule. Sounds obvious, but think about it. Even really good students don't remember every single grammar rule they were taught, or they can't recall it quickly enough.
True, I definitely don't remember all my high school French grammar.
Exactly. Second, you must have time. Using the monitor, consciously applying a rule, takes processing time. It forces you to slow down. Your focus shifts from what you're saying the meaning to how you're saying it the form.
Ah, so that's the hesitation. When someone stops mid-sentence to think about verb endings.
That's often the monitor kicking in, yeah.
Yeah.
It disrupts the natural flow of conversation. You pause, you backtrack, the interaction stalls.
Okay, so know the rule, have time. What's the third limitation?
The third one is limited scope. And this might be the biggest issue. Consciously learned rules only cover a fraction of what makes up total language competence.
What do you mean?
Think about all the nuances. Idioms, collocation, which words naturally go together, appropriate tone or register, subtle shades of meaning. Most of that stuff is too complex or subtle to be captured neatly in a rule. It has to be acquired through massive exposure.
So relying only on the monitor leaves huge gaps.
Huge gaps. If you want that effortless, natural-sounding fluency, you absolutely need to rely primarily on your subconsciously acquired system. The monitor is just for a final, quick polish, if you even have time for it.
Okay, so the monitor is slow and limited. How do these quick, potentially distracting hidden moments help build the stronger acquisition system then?
Because the environment itself pushes you towards acquisition. Think about it. You're waiting for the elevator doors to open. You glance at a flashcard. You don't have time to consciously analyze grammar or consult a rule book.
Right, zero time for monitor use.
Exactly. The situation demands quick, low-effort recall. You're simply retrieving something, reinforcing that intuitive feeling from your acquired system. You're not engaging in complex, conscious rule application. You're feeding the acquisition engine, not the editing engine.
That makes a lot of sense. So acquisition is the powerhouse. How do we keep feeding it, especially in these tiny little bites of time?
The fuel for acquisition is comprehensible input, or CI. This is another key Krashen concept. Language gets acquired when you understand messages input that contain structures just slightly beyond your current level.
The I+1 idea.
That's the one. I is your current level, plus one is that next little bit of structure or vocabulary. The crucial thing is that you understand the overall message because of context or visuals or because most of it is familiar. You acquire the plus one part not by focusing on it, but by understanding the meaning it conveys.
So immersion works well because it just floods you with potential CI.
Exactly. It massively increases the chances you'll encounter and understand that I+1.
But how does a 10-second flashcard review provide CI? Isn't CI usually about reading an article or listening to a conversation?
In the context of hidden moments, the most potent CI often comes from reviewing material you've already processed and understood. When you create your own flashcard, say, linking a sentence with a new structure, the plus one, to a vivid image and maybe a personal note, you've already done the work of making it comprehensible.
Ah, so the comprehension work happens during card creation.
Right. That 10-second review in the elevator isn't about deciphering the input. It's about reactivating and internalizing that comprehensible structure you already figured out. It's reinforcing the acquisition.
Okay, but what about the fear factor? Language learning can be intimidating. People worry about mistakes. How does this method handle anxiety?
That brings us to the effective filter. This is like a mental shield or a firewall. When anxiety is high, motivation is low, or you're scared of sounding stupid, the filter goes up.
And blocks the input.
Exactly. Even if the input is perfectly comprehensible, I plus one, if that effective filter is strong and high, the input just bounces off. It doesn't get processed by the part of your brain responsible for acquisition. Learning grinds to a halt.
That sounds like classic classroom anxiety. Afraid to speak up.
Precisely. High pressure, high filter, yields no acquisition. But the beauty of using these brief, low-stakes hidden moments for personal review is that the pressure is naturally low.
You're just looking at your own card while waiting for the bus.
Exactly. You're alone. It's not a test. It's material you created. This low-pressure context automatically keeps the effective filter down, so the input you review actually gets in. In formal settings, comprehensible input and a low filter are seen as the true causes of acquisition. We can replicate that optimal state perfectly on our own during these microbursts.
Okay, we've got the time, hidden moments, and the goal. Subconscious acquisition fueled by CI with a low filter. Now we need the engine, the mechanism that makes those 10-second reviews scientifically effective over the long haul. And that seems to be spaced repetition systems, or SRS.
SRS is, well, it's probably the single most powerful tool we have against forgetting. It's a scientifically based system designed to combat the natural decay of memory.
The Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, right. We forget things incredibly fast initially.
Depressingly fast, yes. SRS directly counters that curve. Its core idea is simple but revolutionary. It schedules your reviews at the optimal moment, just before you're likely to forget something.
Not too soon, not too late.
Exactly. It maximizes the efficiency of each review. If you remember an item easily, the SRS algorithm calculates a longer interval before you see it again, maybe days, then weeks, then months. But if you struggle or forget it,
Back it comes, much sooner.
instantly. The interval shortens dramatically, forcing you to revisit it quickly until it sticks. It's basically an algorithm fighting our natural tendency to forget things inefficiently.
That optimization is key for hidden moments where every second counts. But how should we use those seconds? Is it just glancing at the card? That feels a bit passive.
You've hit on a critical point for efficiency. The mantra should be, don't review, recall.
Recall, not review. Explain that.
You want to practice the mental act you actually want to improve, which is retrieving information from your memory. When you look at the prompt side of a flashcard, pause, close your eyes maybe, and actively try to pull the answer out of your brain. That's retrieval practice. Just passively looking at the answer is, well, passive study.
And retrieval practice is much more powerful.
Massively more powerful. Cognitive science research shows a huge advantage for testing yourself, retrieval, over just rereading or restudying. Some studies suggest something like a 5-to-1 benefit.
Wow. 5 times the benefit.
Meaning 5 minutes spent actively trying to recall something can be as effective for long-term memory as 25 minutes of just passively reviewing it.
Why such a big difference?
Because the very act of struggling to retrieve a memory strengthens the neural pathway for that memory. It sends a signal to your brain, hey, this piece of information is important and difficult to access. Better make the connection stronger. Passive review doesn't create that same signal.
Okay, that 5x multiplier is what makes a 5-second review in an elevator actually worthwhile. 5 seconds of recall effort equals 25 seconds of passive staring.
Exactly. It makes these tiny moments incredibly potent. Now, about the timing.
Yeah.
The SRS handles that, right? It figures out the optimal moment for that recall attempt.
It does. The algorithms are based on research into memory consolidation. There's a sweet spot you want to review just before forgetting, but not wait so long you have forgotten and need to relearn it from scratch.
How does it calculate that? It's complex, but basically the ideal time for the next review is often estimated to be around 10 to 20% of the desired total retention time. So if you want to remember something for 6 months, the best time for a single practice session might be weeks later.
That sounds way too complicated to track manually with bits of paper.
And that's the beauty of digital SRS tools like Anki or Memrise or others. You don't have to track it. The software does the complex scheduling automatically. Your only job is honesty.
Honesty.
When you review a card, you tell the system, did I remember this easily? Was it hard? Or did I completely forget? Based on your answer, the algorithm calculates the next optimal review date for that specific card. It takes the management burden off you.
So practically speaking, using Anki or a similar app during these hidden moments, how much should we aim for daily to make this work?
The advice is usually to aim for a sustainable, manageable goal. Something like learning 30 new flashcards per day.
30 cards, you emphasize that, not necessarily 30 new words.
Correct. It's a crucial distinction for making the system work with tiny time slots. You need to break the information down into the smallest possible, easily digestible chunks,
Why? What's wrong with putting, say, a whole verb conjugation on one card?
because it's too much information to recall reliably in 5 or 10 seconds. A single complex German noun, for example, might need multiple cards. One for spelling and meaning, another for its gender, the article, another for its plural form, maybe another for an example sentence showing how it's used in a particular case.
Ah, so each card tests one tiny specific piece of knowledge.
Exactly. Simple, granular, microspecific. That way, each recall attempt is quick and focused. You learn each individual bit easily in those short bursts, and the SRS ensures you retain the whole interconnected package over time. 30 cards like that might only represent, say, 5–10 new words or concepts, but they're learned deeply and efficiently.
Right, so the SRS handles the timing and fights forgetting, but it's only as good as the content we feed into it. And you mentioned earlier, just downloading a pre-made deck of 5,000 words probably isn't the best approach.
Definitely not optimal. This is a really critical piece of the puzzle. Flashcards, whether digital or physical, are brilliant at reminding you of something you've already learned or experienced, but they're actually pretty poor at creating that initial memory trace effectively.
So the memory needs to be strong before it even goes into the SRS.
Exactly. For that quick 5-second review in the elevator line to actually trigger recognition and strengthen the memory, the original learning experience needs to have been quite deep, vivid, and memorable. The creation process itself is where the real heavy lifting of learning happens.
Why is making it ourselves so much better than using someone else's pre-made list? I mean, it saves time, doesn't it?
It seems like it saves time up front, but it often costs you much more time and failed recall later. Your brain is an incredibly effective filtering mechanism. It's designed to ignore information that doesn't seem relevant or personally connected.
So a random list of words feels irrelevant.
To your brain's filtering system, yes, it lacks context, emotion, personal connection. You're essentially fighting your brain's natural tendency to discard it. But when you create the content, when you actively engage in finding meaning, linking it to visuals, connecting it to your own life, you bypass those filters.
You become the architect of your own mind, as one source put it.
I love that phrase. The effort, the creativity, the personalization involved in making your own card embeds that information much more deeply from the start. Recall then becomes significantly easier during those quick SRS reviews.
Okay, so if we're crafting our own cards, what are the essential ingredients for making, say, a vocabulary word really stick? What makes a memory deep?
For vocabulary, you need to hit several points. You need the spelling, obviously. You need the sound, how it's pronounced. You need the meaning, but not just a translation. And crucially, you need a personal connection.
Personal connection seems key. How do we forge that?
You need to actively link the new word, not just to its dictionary definition, but to your existing web of knowledge, memories, and experiences. Make the initial memory itself more memorable. Start with concrete, imageable words the sources suggest, focusing initially on the first 600 or so practical words like dog, house, eat, blue, things you can easily visualize.
And how do we build that visualization connection efficiently when making the card?
Use powerful tools. Google Images was called the best storytelling tool ever invented in our research. The process is key. First, search for the foreign word directly in Google Images. Don't search the English translation. See what images native speakers associate with that word.
Get the cultural context visually.
Exactly. Get a feel for it beyond just a one-word translation. Then, the vital step. Actively find a connection between that word image and something in your life, a memory, an experience, a feeling.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say you're learning the Spanish word puente, bridge. Don't just put bridge on the card. Find an image of a really distinctive puente on Google Images. Then consciously think, That reminds me of the time I got stuck in traffic on the Golden Gate Bridge during that trip. Attach it to a real personal memory. That personal, slightly emotional link makes it vastly stickier than just Puente Bridge. You're learning to think in Spanish about bridges, not just translate.
Okay, that works for concrete nouns. But what about the really abstract, annoying stuff? Grammar rules, genders, weird plurals, complex verb patterns. How do we make that memorable for a 5-second recall?
Ah, yes. For the abstract, often nonsensical bits of grammar, standard flashcards often fail. Here we need to lean into mnemonic imagery, vivid, maybe even absurd mental stories.
Because our brains remember stories and weirdness, not abstract tables.
Exactly. Brains are wired for narrative, emotion, novelty, maybe even a bit of shock value. Not for dry charts. The goal of mnemonic imagery here is to transform those unwieldy grammar tables into compact, unforgettable mental movies. Systems like the person action object, or PAO method, are great for this.
Right, you mentioned Arnold Schwarzenegger earlier. That sounded memorable. Walk us through creating a PAO image for, say, German noun gender.
Okay, German gender and plurals can feel totally random. So you assign memorable actors to grammatical concepts. Let's say arbitrarily Arnold Schwarzenegger always represents masculine nouns, der. Maybe Dolly Parton represents feminine, die. And maybe a neutral figure like, I don't know, a specific type of robot represents neuter.
Okay, got me, actors.
Then you assign memorable actions to common plural patterns. Maybe exploding means it adds E in the plural. Maybe singing opera means it adds er. Maybe juggling chainsaws means it adds S. Keep these consistent.
Right. Person, gender, action, plural rule.
Exactly. So you encounter a new masculine noun, like der Hund, the dog,
Yeah.
which adds E in the plural, die Hund. Your mnemonic story is Arnold Schwarzenegger, masculine, is exploding as E plural, a dog. Arnold Schwarzenegger exploding a dog.
Right.
Got it. That's vivid. It's absurd, violent, unexpected, and therefore memorable. Now, when you see Hund on your flashcard during that 10-second wait for the microwave, your brain instantly retrieves the image of Arnold exploding the dog. You don't need to consciously recall masculine E. The image contains the grammatical information.
You've turned abstract beta into a concrete, bizarre little scene.
Precisely. You're making the arbitrary memorable. You learn the pattern once through the memorable story and then apply it automatically via image recall. It bypasses conscious rule lookup and fuels that faster, acquired sense of correctness. Again, it's using the best tool for the job, maximal efficiency. Okay, so we've covered getting the time via hidden moments, retaining information with SRS, and making the content memorable through personalization and mnemonics. Now, how do we train the actual skills, pronunciation, writing, reading, within these same small, scattered intervals?
Good question. Let's start with pronunciation. Our brains often filter out foreign sounds. How do we use microsessions to actually rewire our hearing and then train our mouths?
The crucial first step is training the ear. If you literally cannot perceive the difference between two distinct sounds in the new language, you'll never be able to produce them accurately.
Like the classic ill and R difficulty for Japanese speakers learning English.
Exactly. Or maybe the difference between the vowel sounds in English ship and sheep for Spanish speakers.
Yeah.
Our brains set up these auditory categories early on and tend to ignore distinctions that don't exist in our native language.
So how do we break through that filtering?
Using minimal pairs. These are pairs of words in the target language that differ by only one single sound, like niece versus knees in English, or perro, but versus perro, dog, in Spanish.
And how do I practice that in a hidden moment?
You'd use an app or audio recordings, listen to a native speaker say one of the words in the pair, and you have to identify which one it was. You test yourself repeatedly. Over time, even in short bursts, your brain starts to adapt and create a new auditory category for that foreign sound.
So you train your brain to hear the difference first.
Absolutely critical. If you learn words primarily through reading and guess the pronunciation, you might embed a broken sound. Then, when you hear a native speaker say it correctly, it sounds like a totally different word. Training your ear first prevents a lot of confusion down the line.
Okay, ear trained. Now, how about actually making the sounds, getting our mouth to do the right thing?
For the physical production, you often need more precise technical information about articulation. What exactly are your tongue, lips, and jaw doing? The best tool for this level of detail is the International Phonetic Alphabet, the IPA.
IPA looks kind of intimidating, like a bunch of weird symbols.
It can seem that way, but you don't need to memorize the entire chart. You just use it as a reference for the specific sounds you find difficult. For example, you might struggle with the French U sound. as in two.
Yeah, that's a tough one for English speakers.
Right. The IPA chart, or resources explaining it, can tell you exactly how to shape your mouth. Round your lips tightly as if whistling, but try to say E with your tongue position. Knowing that precise instruction allows you to use a 30-second wait time to just practice that physical mouth shape.
Ah, so focused physical practice, informed by the IPA.
Exactly. Microbursts of deliberate mouth gymnastics. It makes your spoken production much more accurate and less foreign sounding over time.
All right, let's shift to active output. Writing and speaking. The sources emphasize making mistakes quickly. That sounds counterintuitive.
It does, but the key is getting corrections quickly. You fundamentally learn to write by writing and speak by speaking. But the real power of practicing output, especially in these small chunks, is that it generates perfect input material for you.
How does that work?
Your goal, when you have, say, 10 minutes waiting for an appointment, isn't to write a perfect essay. It's to produce something. Finish your SRS review for the day, then use the remaining time on your phone or a small notepad to write a few sentences using your new vocabulary or grammar.
Just get thoughts down, even if flawed.
Yes, speed and volume over perfection at this stage. Then, the crucial step. Get that output corrected as soon as possible. Use a tutor, a language exchange partner, online platforms like italki.com, or even AI tools now.
And the correction is the valuable part.
Hugely valuable. When you get back your own thoughts, your own sentences, but corrected into natural, accurate language by a native or expert speaker, that corrected text is incredibly high quality, personalized input.
Because it's expressing your ideas correctly.
Exactly. It's directly relevant to you, and it highlights precisely where your misunderstandings or gaps were. You feed those corrected sentences back into your SRS, and now you're acquiring the correct way to express your own thoughts. It closes the loop beautifully.
That's a powerful cycle. Okay, finally, reading. How can we use small slots for reading to boost vocabulary?
Reading is fantastic for building passive vocabulary words you recognize, but might not actively use yet. The advice is generally to read without constantly stopping to look up every single unknown word. Try to infer meaning from context.
Just push through.
Push through, aiming for comprehension of the main ideas. Research suggests reading just one average-length book can expose you to and help you learn maybe 300 to 500 new words purely from context, and you can absolutely do this in chunks.
Like 15, 20 minutes during a commute or lunch break.
Perfect. An hour or two of reading per week, breaking into those smaller sessions, has a really noticeable effect on vocabulary growth and overall feel for the language. Pairing reading with an audiobook of the same text is even better, trains the ear and eye simultaneously.
And there was a technique mentioned, narrow reading. How does that help accelerate things?
Narrow reading is simple, but effective. Consciously, choose to read multiple texts on the same topic or by the same author for a period.
So instead of reading one article on politics, one on cooking, one short story, I'd read maybe 5 articles all about, say, climate change.
Exactly. Or read several books by the same author, or stick to just reading recipes for a month. The benefit is repetition.
You see the same core vocabulary over and over.
Precisely. Instead of encountering a vast range of new words in every single text, you start seeing the specific vocabulary related to that topic repeated frequently in different contexts. This builds familiarity rapidly and makes it much easier to guess the meaning of the few remaining unknown words. It boosts comprehension and acquisition within that domain very quickly. #tag outro.
Okay, let's tie this all together then. It feels like a really coherent, synergistic system. We started with the problem everyone faces, no time, and we've built the solution piece by piece.
It really does fit together nicely, doesn't it? The hidden moments scattered through your day provide the actual time. The spaced repetition system, SRS, provides the hyper-efficient method for retention. And then your own personalized, maybe even mnemonic-enhanced flashcard creation provides the deep, sticky memory that makes the whole thing work.
Time, system, memory, all working together.
And it powerfully demonstrates that learning a language isn't really about some innate talent, is it? I mean, we all learned our first language. It's much more about having perseverance, staying motivated, and crucially, applying a good method diligently.
A method that fits into a real busy life.
That's the key takeaway. The challenge wasn't the language. It was finding a path that works with the demands of a busy schedule instead of fighting against it. This approach does that.
So by consciously grabbing those little moments, waiting for the bus, coffee brewing, whatever, and applying these techniques, progress isn't just possible, it's kind of inevitable.
It becomes inevitable, yes. Slow, steady, almost invisible progress sometimes. You're making these tiny, consistent deposits into your Fluency account every day.
Which leads to that fascinating final thought from the sources. The path to fluency isn't about finding some secret magic password.
No, there isn't one. It's about making a conscious choice to essentially maximize laziness
Maximize laziness, how so?
by using the most efficient, highest leverage tools available, SRS for memory, mnemonics for tricky bits, retrieval practice, to turn the scraps of time you do have into usable language skill with the least wasted effort.
So it feels less like hard work because the method is so efficient.
Exactly. You're building your language skills through this continuous series of tiny, almost unnoticeable victories. And then one day, perhaps sooner than you think, you realize, wow, I can actually understand this. I can actually say this.
So the challenge for you listening is clear. Next time you find yourself with 30 seconds of downtime, resist the urge to just scroll mindlessly. Pull out that SRS app, do a couple quick recalls, start building those tiny victories.